Well, it is. It's finally good to kind of be where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would say so, right? So obviously, I'll introduce myself, and then you can introduce yourself. I am Anthony Riccio. I am a student success advisor here at Seton Hall, as well as an instructor for the University Life course to incoming freshmen, as well as Core 1101 Journey of Transformation.
Awesome. Yeah, my name is Joseph Ganji. I'm a sophomore here, going to be a junior at Seton Hall. One of the major things I'm involved in here on campus is being a peer advisor. Outside of that, you guys can find me I'm involved in Alpha Kappa Psi, professional business fraternity. I'm also involved in campus ministry. I do a lot of service, different things like that. I'm also going to be a TIR for the upcoming year. But one of the major things that I love about being here and being at Seton Hall and being on campus is being a peer advisor. And I think a lot of times people kind of don't know what a peer advisor does or really what we do. But one of the major things that we do is we really help freshman students, and we really not only help them transition from high school into college and in the classroom, but with a lot of stuff outside the classroom as well.
Yep, and it's kind of funny that you start talking about being a peer advisor. So from the hierarchy of how things are done, right, as a freshman student coming into Seton Hall University, you are given a student success advisor who essentially handles all your first year advising, right? And we get your degree plan ready, and then essentially what we do is help you transition to your first year in college. And prior to kind of my start, and this is kind of our story of why we're sitting here today. So I originally came to Seton Hall in September of 2024. I was about to say 2004. That would be incorrect. 2024. And I was given a bunch of University Life courses to teach in addition to students for those classes, right? And every student success advisor is assigned a peer advisor. And I just so happened to be assigned the guy next to me, Joseph Ganji, right? And so, it was your first class as peer advisor.
Yeah.
It was my first class teaching at the college level, right? And, I've had a background in teaching prior at the high school level. I'm a college football coach by trade. I've coached football for years. I've worked with the younger population. This was my first time teaching at a college level, right? And so, I think, for both of us stepping in together, right, we ended up really kind of gelling very, 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 very quickly. Joe's Italian, I'm Italian, so right off the bat, you had two paisans working together. And so I think, we started to figure out a lot of things. And from the get-go, Joe, you just kind of how you engage those students, right? Obviously I'm the teacher of the class, right? And Joe is the co-teacher. But, right, that development, that trustworthiness you developed with those students was so important that it helped kind of transition back to me where they saw us as a team, right?
Definitely.
So students would essentially come to Joe, talk to Joe specifically, and then Joe would essentially then recommend them what the next route was. And I think what we saw, right, the traditional thought process of university life and for a freshman transitioning into college, right, it comes across as academics.
Definitely.
Right? And so a little bit about you when you first got here, how would you say that transition was when it came to the academic side of things?
Yeah, I would say for me, academically, I think I took a lot of AP classes in high school, so I think that really helped me. But there's obviously different things you kind of have to navigate through. I would say definitely not having all your classes in the morning. There's different definitely a lot more study time that you have to factor in and things like that. So I would say academically overall, because of the class I took in high school, helped me. But there are still different things you have to go through. But I think overall you start to realize that there's more than just that academic, and just day to day going to class doing this. There's a life there.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things I would preach was that this is probably the biggest transition that I don't even want to call it a student, that a young adult goes through outside of some sort of loss, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Most of the time, this is the first time that you're on your own, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that when you came in as a freshman that was the first time you were away from your parents for more than 24 hours?
Oh, definitely. And I was not good, to be honest, those first like few days. Like I remember like my stomach hurt, like I wanted to go home. I didn't feel good, like, and I was only 30 minutes away too. And it was just like the whole like shift. You're living with people, even some of my roommates, like I knew them, but like it's still like a completely different like reality that you're in now.
Yeah, because now it's that I'm an adult, right? Yeah. And so the first things first is a lot of what we do in U-Life, right? And there's so many great things that we do in university life, you know, and, you know, obviously going over time management, self-care, right? We even go over financial literacy, right? And so the one thing that was so great about our class was just that they really were excited about being at the university.
Yeah.
And they were very engaged. And obviously, you know, seeing the rapport that you had with the students specifically, you know, we started to get a little bit more than just, I'm struggling in English. I don't know what to do for Journey. And, you know, that's where I would say, you know, we had a commonality with one student that you had told me that you had talked to during Welcome Week. And they had brought up a situation that was very much not academic based whatsoever. And it ended up being, from that point going forward, we were meeting weekly with students, talking specifically not even about their academics, but how we thought they were adjusting to the school.
Yeah. And that's an amazing point, because I think you realize too, like, they're not just coming to me asking like, hey, like, how do I register for this class, or how do I get here, or how do I do this? You realize is they're coming to you with real life issues. I always like to say, like, behind every student there's a life. And you realize that there's all these different things that can either hinder or enhance their academic performance. But I think when you realize like there are different things that are affecting students' lives, they're usually outside of the classroom. Maybe it's family issues. Maybe it's something going on here. Maybe something else is personally affecting them. And when they feel comfortable enough to come to us and talk about these different things, I think that it's really something awesome, because you're realizing that you're helping them and providing that support in a way that kind of transcends the classroom. It transcends all of that. It's directly impacting their life. And like, I also want to give credit to you, Professor Riccio, because, you know, in helping and giving me that confidence to do that with the students that we had, but also like building that camaraderie each week with the students as well. Like, I give a lot of credit to you as well. And I think we both kind of clicked off of that and wanted to make like, not only like ourselves available in university life and like make that like a home and a safe space, but like also the countless hours that we met with students outside the classroom. You always kept your door open. I would always be available on Teams, or they could text me. And like, we really got to know these students for who they are as people, and like genuinely like impact their lives in a way that like, again, like it just it's so much more. It's so much more impactful than just like the day-to-day stuff. And really like when you, I think, reflect on that and you go through each day and you kind of like, I think, go to bed at night and you're like, what did I do today? And to know that you were able to give back in such like a impactful way, it's always just so like moving and humbling to be able to do that each day.
Absolutely. And I would say that we were a little bit like a power couple, in terms of that, in terms of the advising. And obviously, you know, part of kind of how it came to be obviously didn't come out of just, you know, wasn't something that I was like, you know what, I think this is something that makes sense. I think working together and seeing just how much students put their faith in you, and then how we started having these little powwows, right?
Yeah.
And we were meeting with a ton of students, and the questions now became more, and the advice became more relative to just life.
Yeah.
Relationships, loss, how do I handle this next step in my life? A lot more than just, I don't know what I'm doing in Journey this week. And so the more and more it kind of dawned on me, and for those of you who don't know, Joe's wearing a nice button-down shirt. It might be a button-up. It depends. It depends on where the button is on the collar. That's not the point of the story. But Joe wears a uniform, a blue polo, for his role as a peer advisor. And I think a lot of students originally, when they come into Seton Hall, see that blue polo and they see a student of high academic achievement, and someone who knows the resources on campus, right? But I think you used a great word. You said transcends, and I think you yourself as a person transcends what that blue shirt stands for.
Thank you.
Right, and so Joe became someone that students opened up to, and then Joe's relationship with myself brought those students into my office, who then opened up to us entirely. And so now we're over here using the ability of us sort of giving power to the student in terms of how they were thinking and validating those thoughts, and finding ways to how can we help them get to their next step. And I would say 90% of the conversations we had weren't academic.
100%. And I actually think that was better, because I feel like in those moments where you have students coming to you and they're trusting you, and they're at their most vulnerable, but that's really how you get to build that relationship with them, that connection, and really get to know them for who they are. And I think looking back on my sophomore year, like that was definitely so impactful to me, that I was able to make those connections, those relationships with the students that we worked with, that again, like transcended the classroom, that went deeper into life. And I feel like in that sense too, because I always feel like, in leadership, I think the greatest leaders are the leaders that always want to continue learning and stuff like that. And I feel like I learned so much more about life and just about myself and about the people I work with each day, or the people I see, and just things that like you wouldn't even think about, but like just having those meaningful, impactful conversations, and just being able to, because sometimes, you don't have the answers, but just to be able to be an active listener and provide a sense of understanding and compassion, I think that was literally the most incredible experience I ever had.
Yeah, and I would say that part of it, really, the thought is that experience is a more powerful substitute than belief, right? And so the fact that even just talking with you in general, when it was just us just meeting and kind of talking about life in general, started to see, wow, these are things that I'm coming to figure out as we're speaking, that we can provide assistance to our students. And so I want to say it was around April, right? So in the spring, peer advisors normally don't teach. They'll co-teach one course with someone like myself in success skill, right? And really what we were doing, we were just following up on students that whole time. And we were getting our weekly meetings with students that wanted to come speak to us. And it kind of dawned on me, right? And part of it, Joe has a very big formative background in trying to start in doing podcasts, right? You had a podcast here. You still do, right? With the Seton Hall basketball team in terms of covering it. And you're also pursuing a minor
in sports media.
And so I thought about it, and I kept thinking that, what if we kind of honor our first year students, spotlight our first year students, and really talk about the things too that I think are left unsaid. Right. And I think being an 18-year-old kid coming into college, you become your own person. Right. And so that there's some sort of learning curve to it. But the nitty gritty things that we don't talk about outside of like academic stuff, right? Relationships, loss, fitting in, finding yourself, change, right? How do you adapt to change? And was something that I thought we can really spotlight and really give those issues or those conversations a little bit more power.
Definitely.
Than we would normally be able to. Giving power to those students and really giving the idea that, hey, we want to talk about the things and address the things that you might be I guess I would say nervous or afraid to talk about, because there should be no fear in that. And I think that what our plan is to really use this as a pedestal for those students, and use it as the chance for those questions to be heard.
Definitely.
And I think some people, like a Joe Ganji, who is a peer advisor, is much more than that blue polo that he wears. Joe has experienced plenty of things, right? And you can go into it and you could talk about it. But I think having that power of our peer advisors being able to speak in regards to those situations and those questions that have been left unsaid is going to be extremely powerful.
And that's the thing too, like even talking with other peer advisors or just talking with different advisors, we realize that a lot of these things that we do with our students are, like we've been mentioning, outside the classroom. And just thinking about how many different interactions we had with our students, just being able to like have a platform where they can provide their insight, or we can spotlight them or spotlight their achievements, highlight their stories, I think would really kind of humanize what we do as an advisor, as a peer advisor. Because I feel like sometimes there's like, you see the person in the pole, you're like, oh, they're PA, they're in your U-Life class, but it's so much more than that. If you like, we took that effort to make it something special and we got so much out of it. And I'll never forget too, because I feel like we always talk about how it all goes back to the people you meet.
Yep.
And we always talk about connections and people and relationships, and it all goes back to that. And the way that we were able to kind of make those relationships, and now they're so strong that we're able to kind of create this platform where we want to kind of give back to like the Seton Hall community and spotlight those stories, I think is super incredible. And I remember the first day you brought it up to me, I was like right on board with it, because like I thought it was just an amazing way to kind of just, again, highlight these stories and again, answer those questions that people might be a little bit hesitant to talk about. But it's when you have those conversations, you really develop a greater understanding about yourself and others.
Absolutely. And so what our plan is we are going to really spotlight our student stories. We're gonna bring students on. We're gonna have peer advisors talk about things that I believe deserve to be talked about.
100%.
And we're gonna give a perspective to not only our first year students, but to every student here at this university, and to every student at a local university, a nearby university, or a national university, right? Because we're all going through this, and we're all trying to find our way through this transitional period on becoming the best person we can be after this period of time that we spend here in college, right? Yeah. And so I think it's so important to really honor that and highlight that. And listen, I'm excited to see where this will go. I'm excited to hear these stories, and I'm excited to see the impact that we will have going forward.
Definitely. And I think this is another thing that kind of highlights for all students out there that college is really just about the journey. And what you put in is what you're going to get out. And, if you really take the opportunity to kind of like really in a lot of different ways, you're going to grow as a person. But it's like when you realize that growth day to day and you're able to kind of like look back and reflect, you realize like the journey that the 4 years can be. It all kind of starts when you come in as a freshman, and you're not going to leave college the same person you were when you came in, and there's a reason for that. And a lot of those things kind of come up with what we see with our first year students, and we want to highlight that. And because we talk about these things and we see a lot of the things that our students went through, but when they went through that, we saw that growth, we saw that improvement. And I think giving a platform like this moving forward where we can talk about these things, and I don't even want to just say students, but like we also go through these
of course, absolutely,
as people. And I think it's an incredible idea as well to kind of just talk about these things, because sometimes, we kind of like push it aside. Oh, like I just got to get 100 on this test and kind of keep pushing. But when you kind of take that greater opportunity to kind of keep looking and dissecting and going into those things, you realize that those are the things that really are going to impact you in your life moving forward.
Absolutely. And so it's funny you talk about the journey, and really becomes who you become on that journey, right? It's not about the destination whatsoever. So we're going to have some exciting content throughout the semester. And all I can really say is I'm absolutely excited for where we're going to go from this point going forward. But yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I'm just super excited. Like, we've been trying, like we really had this idea. I'm just super excited to like finally get it going. And I'm really excited because I know we know a lot of people that had really impactful stories throughout the year. And I'm really excited to kind of like spotlight them, but also talk about things that, we go through on a day-to-day basis, and hopefully, be a resource, another resource that people can go to listen to these things and realize that like we're all one school community, we're all one larger community, but we're going through this greater thing called life. And within life, there's all these things that can come up, but we're all going through them together. And you're never alone out there. And I think that's one of the things we realize in advising. You're there to help people and help them along this journey as well.
There you have it, folks. Joseph Ganji with the wisdom of the show today. So we will leave it like that. Till next time, we will see you soon.